difference him is he's a get it done kind of guy. He doesn't stand on ceremony.
No, as you can tell by the little.
Yeah, I dressed up.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
So, this is really just a very informal session. But I'm going to kick it off by, inviting you to share your views. What inspired you to take the position to explore Vancouver as a Bitcoin-friendly city? I think we kind of already are, in a way.
I think we are.
So over to you. And
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming here today. And just so I have context, is everyone a Bitcoiner here? Or various people on different parts of their journey? Like we have experts and people that are like curious. How many people are curious? Okay, cool. How many people are experts here?
I don't know about expert, but I'm definitely I've been down the rabbit hole for a while.
Okay, here, I'm going to move this chair here while we get a little closer here. Yeah. Okay, where do we start here? How much time do we have, by the way?
As much time as you like. We've got until 4, and they'll probably kick us out of the room, but it's really up to your schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is a topic that's actually a lot of fun. So maybe I'll tell you about my journey as it relates to Bitcoin and how, like almost every other person who's been orange pilled, it started out as I was a pessimist. I didn't believe it. I thought it was crap. So one of my sons, we have 4 boys, and I guess I'm here all by myself.
Yeah,
Awesome. Okay.
Well, doing it by yourself.
So one of my boys came up to me and he said, "Dad," this would have been, I think, probably 2019 or 2018. And he said, "Dad, I want to buy Bitcoin." And I literally said, "You touch that shit, I'm going to punch you in the throat." That's the true story. Obviously, I wouldn't have done that, partly because he would have whooped my butt. He's actually a big kid. But to give you some background, I'm a chartered accountant, former investment banker. I was in private equity. So obviously, I had this huge inflated, impression of my own self and my knowledge, and I thought I knew everything. And so I left it at that, but then I started to get curious. And I know for anyone who knows anything about Bitcoin, Jeff Booth is actually a friend, and he wrote this book called The Price of Tomorrow, and we'd been chatting. And so then I got more curious. I read at the time like 12 books about Bitcoin or crypto or adjacent. The Bitcoin Standard, When Money Dies, Token Economy, Layered Money. The list goes on and on. Since then, I've probably read like 40 or 50 books on the topic. So anyways, then I went to a couple of conferences and I spoke to a lot of people that actually understood Bitcoin. And I did a 180, partly because started to understand money. I never thought, never gave money any thought. It's just it's just money. And then you wake up to the fact that our currency is getting debased by about 10 to 15% a year. We literally have melting ice cubes in our hands. And then you look at what are our options. And in investment banking, I was a mining investment banker, so we covered gold companies. And then you looked at that, and then you started to understand Bitcoin, and it's probably the greatest invention in human history. And I truly believe that. It's actually better than airplanes, the internet, and I know Bitcoin exists because of the internet, but work with me here for a sec. It's the most incredible thing. It's literally going to change human history and how we organize ourselves. For the first time ever, we have something that isn't flawed. And it's going to change everything. And the fact that it's finite, there's nothing on this planet, in the whole history of this planet, that has been completely finite. And that didn't even really hit me. I've been talking about it for years, but it only really hit me, or the significance only hit me about a month ago, when I realized, holy crap, this is actually a massive deal. And so obviously I like Bitcoin now.
Yeah, I think I personally went on a similar journey to what you went on, and
Sure, just grab a seat with me.
Totally against. Oh, thanks. Yeah, here. This one. Yeah, I was totally against Bitcoin at first, and I actually wrote quite a lot of stuff against Bitcoin. And this is at a time when there was a journalist in the Financial Times that was actually writing, against Bitcoin, and we would exchange emails. But the thing about what they always say in kind of the Bitcoin space is trust, but verify, and do your own research. So the more that I started to do my own research, the more that I began to see, similar to what you saw, the transformative capabilities. And I was just chatting, as people were coming in, I was saying that, think about when double entry bookkeeping came in, right?
Yep.
Think about when double entry bookkeeping came in the Middle Ages. Now we've got triple entry bookkeeping. Think about how record keeping affects every aspect of your life. Like, I'm sure the whole city runs on record keeping, bookkeeping, and think about how blockchain has the ability to, it's a transformation of record keeping. It can touch every single city function. So for me, it goes beyond even money. I don't know, if you've been thinking about that for the city at all, Ken, beyond, the crypto aspects and the money aspects, but the administrative efficiency aspects. So that's just kind of a question I'll put out there.
Yeah, not at all. I'm kidding. Quite a bit, actually. And so, for anyone who doesn't understand Bitcoin or the blockchain, people call it the truth machine. It's an immutable record that no one can change unless you have consensus from the network, right? And so, there's so many applications beyond store of value. That's the one thing we're going after. But think of land title. All of a sudden, there's going to be no question. And it's not as big of a deal as it is in Vancouver, as opposed to, let's say, in a village in India or in Africa or somewhere where you don't have great records, or there's been a war in one of these countries and 8 different people claim to own the same property. Now you have an immutable record, and it just, it's going to be lights out. But the big thing we're looking for, if we can just get through this next year and get Bitcoin or a proxy thereof on the balance sheet, that sets us up so well for the future. Then all this other stuff can come in. We can be laggards. We don't have to be early adopters on that stuff, but on the strategic reserve, we have to be an early adopter, or we lose out on the opportunity.
Yeah, good point. That makes a big difference. I mean, the other stuff is, probably going to make changes and improvements around the margins, but it's the really big lift that you can get from Bitcoin. So you probably heard that over the weekend, Trump administration is always coming out with new announcements. That they actually announced over the weekend that they would be moving forward with their crypto reserve. So it's going to include Bitcoin, it's going to include XRP, Solana, and Cardano. Not Ethereum, interestingly. A lot of people are really surprised that he, included some other coins besides Bitcoin, and B, the ones that he included, and maybe, leaving out Ethereum, which is a kind of a big surprise considering the market capitalization. So what are your thoughts? What would be your thoughts on, definitely looking at Bitcoin and getting Bitcoin on the balance sheet, but what about these other currencies as well? Would you be looking to follow suit with that, or
no?
Are you open to it?
No. And so, look, I know, full disclosure, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. And there are other use cases for ETH, Solana, Cardano, you name it. We're trying to get this on the strategic reserve. And the property with Bitcoin that we're trying to go after is the fact that there's a cap. There's only 21 million. Right, so there's no upper bound as to how much it could be worth, and it's the only thing that's going to be able to retain its value. It has all the perfect characteristics of perfect money. And while there could be other use cases for ETH as an example, and there could be it could be amazing with what they're doing in smart contracts and what have you, and there could be room for more than one. That's not what we're going after. Right? And so strategic reserve, putting it on the balance sheet, that's why we like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin is known to be, still seen to be the most secure blockchain. It's never been hacked. Exchanges have been
Yep.
hacked, but,
Yep.
but the network itself, and that's partly because of its proof of work consensus mechanism. And the proof of work consensus mechanism, for those of you who might not be familiar, is basically solving a really difficult cryptographic puzzle, if you will. So it takes a lot of computing energy to do that, because you need basically to come up with a number that, when added to another number, will produce a certain number of zeros, and that's the solving of the puzzle, and it's hard to do. So it takes a lot of computing energy. Critics of Bitcoin always point to the energy issue. And I'm just wondering if, is the city thinking about that? Like what is the city, of course, where we are, we're very concerned about energy and
Yep.
climate. So what does the city think about that?
Well, what the city feels about it and how I think about it might be two different things at this point in time, but in the future we'll be aligned. Look, let's just go to first principles, let's go to database decisions, let's be pragmatic. The critics have it wrong. They are 100% wrong. Okay, so let's just step back before I tell you why Bitcoin's going to save the planet. It's going to heal the planet, and it's good for the environment. Let's assume none of that happens. They're still wrong. If you go back to money, like imagine someone has a counterfeiter. Like let's say you live in a little small town and you have a bunch of, schmeckles or whatever, right? Or let's just call them dollars, who cares? You have a bunch of dollars, and then someone can actually print, counterfeit a bunch more dollars. That makes your dollars worthless. Can we all agree on that? Now, the governments around the world, they actually have a legal counterfeiter where they're debasing your currency by about 15% a year, and we can talk about that. So if you have $100 today, it's worth $85 tomorrow, okay? The reason I'm going through all this is the environment is a very complex thing, and so what people and companies are forced to do to maintain their store of energy that they've accumulated all this time is they have to chase returns, either by investing in companies that are building stuff, or they have to have a company that builds stuff. And usually they build stuff that people don't want, so they can just basically keep their heads above water. That is terrible for the environment. We have all this excess production of stuff like crap that we don't need. And if you measure that, that does more harm to the environment than all the energy that is produced that, basically protects Bitcoin. Okay, so let's just put that off to the side. We've already won there. Now, when you look at Bitcoin and you understand energy, it actually will heal the planet. Like think of natural gas. It gets flared off. It's absolutely terrible for the environment, but it's a byproduct of producing oil, right? Or refining oil, or producing oil, whatever. When you repurpose that and you mine, it actually takes away some of the pollutants. So it's actually good. Like it's a freebie. Or if you look at methane that seeps out of the ground, like over old dumps, let's say, you can actually capture that stuff, burn it like in a better way, and once again, less harm to the environment. If you look at green energy products like a wind product or a solar project, that doesn't get built because of the intermittent nature of how the energy is produced, and you don't have a bunch of customers lined up for it, so you can never go to the bank to get these financed. Well, Bitcoin miners are location agnostic. And so they'll go anywhere and they'll provide all the demand. And so all of a sudden, these projects, they have a revenue model that they can now go to the bank, get financed, and they actually get built. And then the magical thing that happens next is they're usually built in places that have a population nearby, but they don't actually have reliable power. So they have to use coal or natural gas or whatever. And they're willing to pay more for that energy, so they actually outbid the Bitcoin miners, and so now you have a renewable energy, source there, and then the Bitcoin miners go to the next thing. So I'm not kidding when I say they have it absolutely wrong. Even if we didn't do all that stuff, which is great for the environment, right here, just by getting rid of like the money problem and producing less, we'll do incredible things for the environment. I can go on and on about this, by the way.
No, I know you really have done your research, but let's get back to first principles before I'm gonna open it up, because I'm sure like lots of questions for you. But let's get back to first principles. Like, why wouldn't the city, I mean, Bitcoin could be viewed as a very risky asset, right? It goes up, it goes down, in price, and, why would the city be looking at investing in what some people would view as a very risky asset, versus, some good, traditional, safe kinds of investments?
Because the safe investment is, excuse my language, the shit investment. It really is, seriously. How many people, if you guys have any savings, how many people keep it in cash still? Like 100% cash? Yeah. So at the City of Vancouver, we have $3.2 billion worth of, cash.
Cash based.
That's earning between 88 base, or like less than 1% to about just under 5%. But it's losing 15% of its purchasing power. So we're like on the safe investments, we're losing between $300 and $500 million in purchasing power. And that's the safe investment. Okay, like $3.2 billion, you make 30 whatever million dollars in interest, but then you lose $450 million in purchasing power, because $3.2 billion next year is only worth about 2.6, 2.7 in purchasing power.
Because of inflation.
Because of inflation. Well, I like to make a distinction. It's not inflation, it's actually the debasement of our currencies.
Okay.
They're printing more money, so our money is worth less. And that's the safe investment. And even if you don't believe, let's say we never do this at the City of Vancouver. And by the way, I'm not giving investment advice. I'm not qualified to give investment advice. But you should really question what's going on. You can see it, like, even if you don't believe anything I'm saying, just think of your grocery bill. Over the last 5 years, it's probably doubled, hasn't it? That is 10 to 15% debasement per year. So it's already happening to you. And it's going to get worse. Just when you look at how the world is structured and where all the debt is, and how, even Elon Musk can't fix it, and we can talk about that if you want. So, long way of saying the safe investment's the shit investment. Now, when you look at Bitcoin, and don't call it Bitcoin. What if I said, there's an asset out there that was the #1 performing asset 11 out of the last 14 years on the planet. Like #1, not 1%. The #1 performing asset on the planet, 11 out of the last 14 years, and over the last 16 years total. Don't you think we should look at that? Don't we look at, like, if you're a day trader, yeah, the volatility may harm you if you're looking at buying and selling at the same day. But if you stretch it over a long enough period, and then you actually understand Bitcoin and what gives it its principles, and over time it will succeed, it's probably the best thing we can do. And volatility isn't a bad thing. Like, if you look at the S&P 500, there is volatility there. If you look at a hockey team, you could actually, would you like a third-line center who consistently gives you 15 goals a year? Or do you want Wayne Gretzky on your team? Wayne Gretzky was actually a volatile hockey player. And you win with the volatility. So, stretched over enough period of time, like I look at Bitcoin, and historically, it's returned 45% per year on average, versus negative 10 to 15% in the safe investment. I don't know. I think we should take our chances.
Yeah. So, okay, you've heard some of Ken's journey, some of the arguments he's making for putting Bitcoin on the city's reserves, considering it. There was a motion passed to just consider it at this point. So I'd like to really open it up to questions from the audience here. You can ask anything, because Ken he's done his research, and he is a really open person. So
Yep. And you're not going to hurt my feelings if you ask a really tough question.
Okay, so maybe you can say, maybe the question.
Hi, I'm Jacob.
Hey, Jacob.
So my question is, has there been any consideration or thought about tracking where tax dollars go via blockchain? Because I think that, we can all agree there's probably large amounts of waste in the government, and being able to know where our tax dollars can go would probably make the system much more efficient.
Yeah, that's a great comment. Tracking of the tax dollars isn't as big of a deal because we know where the tax dollars are going. It's really, are those things that we are working on, are they the most efficient things? And so I know this isn't on Bitcoin, but what we did is we actually we set up this thing called the Mayor's Budget Task Force, which was a collection of 58 individuals that had nothing to do with the city of Vancouver. But they're like, chartered accountants, CFAs, people in the business community. I don't believe in right versus left, but we had representation from the right, the center, and the left, First Nation involvement, like a broad base of people from across the community, and they went through our financial statements with no guardrails. We said, look, we're not even going to tell you what to look for because you're all smart people. Just find stuff. And you know what? They actually came back with a pretty big report. Their general finding was we actually operate pretty efficiently, like on the stuff that we do. And there's a bunch of other opportunity that we weren't even considering. And that's probably where the big stuff can happen. I'll give you an example, like, I don't know, in any one department, we may be able, if we like cut 10% of our staff, which we're not gonna do, by the way, I don't believe in that at all. And that's coming from someone who's fiscally conservative. But let's say you cut people, you may save $5 or $10 million. And if we have naming rights on our parks and our buildings, we can create $100 million. So let's go after the big prize and concede, there's some stuff that, may not be super optimal, but that's okay.
I think what you're also getting at though too is that like with open data, opening the books of the city, which Ken has done and allowed
Yeah.
people to look at it.
Yeah.
It's about sort of creating a transparent ledger, which people can
Yeah.
navigate.
Yeah. Okay, so now I understand it. Yeah, I'd love to migrate over that. Like, I see a future where everyone can see in real time where everything's going, for sure. It just adds to a huge level of transparency. And that's the great thing about Bitcoin. You don't have to trust it, right? Like, it's accurate.
Exactly. Other questions? Okay, I see a hand over here and then we'll
Sure.
come to.
I'm gonna move up here a little more here.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Jonathan, and
Jonathan.
speaking of taxes, I saw in the news that you mentioned that Vancouver might incorporate Bitcoin as a payment method to pay taxes or fees. So I just want to know the progress for that, because there are other cities in Canada that have done that in the past. And have you learned also from their experience?
Yeah, everything that's been done, it's still pretty early, right? And really, what we ask our staff or team members, that I like to call them, do, is to look at all the different ways they can make Vancouver a Bitcoin-friendly city. The primary is really getting stuff on the balance sheet. The transactional stuff, that can come later. I think the bigger challenge we have, not so much on the city side because we're not taxable, but every individual who transacts in Bitcoin, there's a capital event, right? So, if you bought your Satoshis at whatever, a tenth of it, or let's say, like you bought your Bitcoin at like $100,000 and then it went up to $120,000. When you actually transact, you have a capital gain of 20%, right? And so it's still super clunky. So we need the federal government to change the tax code to treat it like a currency. And so you get rid of that. That's when we're going to be able to transact and it's going to explode. Does that answer your question?
Do you think Bitcoin is a preferred way to transact with these types of transactions?
I think so, yeah. In the future, for sure, yeah, because it's a lot faster and it's a lot easier. I just tried transferring stuff over the weekend from my bank account to an exchange, and I'm still waiting for it to happen. Whereas, if everyone had Lightning wallets, boom, boom, you're done, right? So, yeah, no, at some point, because we do have people that are unbanked. That could just literally download a Lightning wallet in about 12 seconds and they're off to the races. And it's just, it's way more efficient.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe I'll give you a different example. So we have a business as well, and we accept credit cards. And the interchange fee is about 1.5%. right? And then you have to wait for your money, and you have chargebacks and all that. So they're sitting on our money, and it's clunky, and they charge us a lot. And with the Lightning Network, literally, we can transact right away at like a fraction of 1.5%, and the money hits our account instantaneously. So watch for that, because that's going to be the next thing. As a business owner, I know as soon as companies like Koinos, for example, they approach us and they say, well, we can do this and we'll show you how to do it. All of a sudden it's like, yeah, sign us up. And it's going to happen so quickly once it happens. Like you'll see overnight, everyone's just going to migrate onto the new system.
Which, by the way, Virgo CX can help as well.
Sorry, what's that? Oh, you guys can help as well. Yeah, no, I was just giving you an example. Yeah. But yeah, it's an exciting time.
Yeah, it's great we already can see there's many providers of these services that are already existing and growing in Vancouver. That is the exciting thing. Like, we already are a Bitcoin and crypto-friendly city. It's just like, why don't we just say what we are already?
Yeah.
But I'm editorializing. I would like to.
Hi, Ken. I'm Lee. So I just have a question about by embracing Bitcoin in Vancouver. Do you think that will in any ways create more job opportunities for university students or for the whole city? Like, what do you?
If we make Vancouver a Bitcoin-friendly city, will it create more opportunity? Absolutely, 100%. And like has already been mentioned, we are a Bitcoin-friendly city, and sometimes we have a hard time believing it. We talk about the first Bitcoin ATM was actually in Vancouver, and some of the biggest brains in Bitcoin are right here in our city, and ETH as well, by the way. But then you go to other places, like, I was just in San Salvador, 3 weeks ago, for the Plan B conference, and part of it was we were asked to speak there, but also we wanted to see the infrastructure. We wanted to go to Bitcoin Beach, and they have their own app and like all this stuff going on. And I can tell you, while I loved being down there and the ecosystem's pretty good, their rate of adoption is actually really low. And so when I say Vancouver is a leader, Vancouver is a leader. I can't think of very many cities that would be in front of us. In fact, I can't name one. We're just really early still.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I'm originally from a biochem background,
Yep.
but now I'm working for a cybersecurity company which adopt the blockchain technology. So just interesting that I was originally from the biochem. I graduated from UBC chemistry master, biochem bachelor, and then I was offered with the PhD opportunity to continue my degree.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of studied the Web3 and blockchain technology myself, and I got really interested in that. So that's why I kind of switched my career path into blockchain and Web3.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of biochem students and science students, they were not, they have limited job opportunity in Vancouver, so they have to leave Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. Like they grew up in Vancouver and they really want to stay in Vancouver with their family.
Yeah.
But it's just that limited jobs in Vancouver for science and biotech companies.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to go somewhere else to find, they got a job opportunity. So I was really excited when you say that embracing Bitcoin, and then that will not only just saying that it's gonna make Vancouver better, like with Bitcoin, and it's actually gonna create a lot of job opportunities and create higher salary for new grad, because it's such a new field. Most of the job you need 5 years of experiences. When they were like, you just fresh graduate, they're like, oh, we need 5 years of experiences for you to get this job. But it's not gonna happen because all the fresh grad, they don't have 5 years experiences. But Web3 and crypto is really new, so I think it's really gonna be revolutionary to the new grad if we actually do that in Vancouver. Yeah, just somehow.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have a question here, and then I'll come over to Jessie.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Ken, for all the sharing. My name is Joy, and I'm also from the financial industry. I currently work in a E&D company, exam market dealer, and we are focusing on all the alternative investments. So I believe that Bitcoin is one of the hottest alternative. And I have a few questions. So the first one is about the local business. So to promote, I know now you're saying putting as an investment to like collaborate with the local business?
I don't understand that question,
To
so,
promote Bitcoin as like
Yeah.
investment or payment method by collaborating with local business?
yeah, I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but what I can tell you is, when we were sort of forced to do this. Like, I thought we had a couple of years to introduce Bitcoin into the city, but with what happened in November, with Trump winning the election and they were going to move to a Bitcoin standard, we had to rush in because the opportunity, I think we only have about 6 months if we're lucky. We'll still do it if it happens over later than 6 months or a year, but the big opportunity when people finally wake up to this, and if you look at what's coming down the, down the road, we don't have a lot of time. This is definitely not an exercise of just saying something to get a couple of votes and then we're leaving it. No, we are all in. In fact, we take a lot of shots because we're early. People think we're crazy. And people fight against us. And that's why politicians are scared to bring this up, because they don't get rewarded for doing this. They will get rewarded in 5 years when it's too late, but right now, we take way more shots, and from really smart people too. We take way more shots than the value we get out of it. But this is so important for the city. Maybe I'll step back a bit. The reason I ran for mayor is because our 4 boys didn't see a future for themselves in Vancouver. I'm not trying to, I have no other political career aspirations. I do not want to be a premier. I do not want to be a prime minister. I just love this city. And it's worth, this is a hill I'll personally die on because it's so important. It could set the city up for the next 100 years. And so we're going after it. So I think when we bring Bitcoin into the city, it actually gives, first, having this conversation, it gave a lot of people that were closeted, social or licensed to say, wait a sec, it's safe to come out. So I think that's very healthy. 2, when we actually do it, we'll be, if not the first city, one of the first cities on the planet to do it if we're successful, which means we're leaders. And people know that we embrace the technology and we want this to happen. And that's going to encourage a bunch of people to come to Vancouver and start up companies and do amazing things working, on layer 2 and the Lightning Network and right? And even financial, DeFi, people, setting up smart contracts on layer 2 or, letting people lend in a safe way, lend their Bitcoin out, but still keeping the keys. You know all the stuff, right, that we can do. So this is just the start. I know I didn't answer your question, but.
Okay, one more quick question and we'll pass it on.
Sure. One more quick question, to follow up. Thank you for your visions. And you were talking about challenges and obstacles. One obstacle I have experienced, I know, is from the big banks, because they are the traditional banks. And once you talk about maybe Bitcoin or Bitcoin investment, crypto investment with your financial planner or financial advisor, they will mind their alarm and saying, well, is there AML, anti-money laundering investment that needs to be investigation that needs to be done? Will any policy help to communicate with the traditional finance, the traditional banks, with the AML and stuff?
Okay, once again, I don't think they're going to listen to a mayor or a city, but I can tell you, maybe I'll describe the situation as I see it. Let's just call it what it is. Bitcoin's going to eat their lunch. That's why they're fighting it. Okay, and so they're resisting. And I actually find it very hypocritical of the banks. So if anyone's ever tried to transfer money from their bank to an exchange, the first thing that probably comes up is the transfer gets frozen, and then you have someone from compliance or the fraud department. Everyone, how many people have experienced that? Yeah, okay. And then they go out of their way to say, do you really want to do this? It's super risky. It's a scam. Bitcoin's all about fraud, organized crime, bad for the environment. You are too dumb to understand what you want to do with your money, kind of. How many people have experienced that? Okay. The reason that's happening is you're blowing up their system. the banks don't work, and it's clunky, and you're eating into their profit margins. That's it. Now, what I find hypocritical, and I only learned this a couple of weeks ago, is those same banks that will tell you why you can't do something. And by the way, we have a lot of friends that work at the banks, and we like them, and okay, so, and sorry if this is getting streamed, I'm sorry, I hope my mortgage doesn't get sort of taken away from me and stuff. But here's the reality. I'll give you data. So Bank of Montreal, they say don't do it. They have $139 million in Bitcoin, not for their clients, for themselves. HSBC, well now RBC, they bought them $6 million. Raymond James has a few million bucks in there as well. JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, who literally says Bitcoin is a scam and it's shit. They have 1.35 billion US of their own money, not their clients, their own money in Bitcoin. They're front running. That's all they're doing. And if you guys don't know what front running is, has anybody watched The Big Short? Yeah. Think of Goldman Sachs when they were selling their products, and then they knew they had a problem, so they wouldn't make a market in their products until they created a position where they were protected. That's what the banks are doing right now. Seriously. And so my whole thing is like, I don't have any animosity to any one group, but sort of, I believe not in what people say, but what they do. And they're saying, don't do this, but then they are doing exactly what they're telling you not to do. And so, I don't know. I think that the entire, and I feel like I have a tinfoil hat here on, but like I was a banker before, and I can tell you the whole system is rigged. And it's about to blow up. It's going to blow up in the next 5 years. I'm totally convinced of it, and we can talk about that as well if you want.
Yeah, okay, so we have a question over here.
Hi, Ken and Jesse.
Hey, Jesse.
Totally agree with you. I'm wearing a tinfoil hat too.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 10 years ago, moving a pension, I got that situation, but let's say I put a fraction of what I put into the RRSP into crypto.
Yeah.
That crypto investment is about 10x what that pension is today.
Yeah.
So that's true, but it takes about 10 years. So people need to be involved for 10 years. But I want to go back to when you said you think and the city thinks very different things.
Yeah.
I never thought cities think, they govern. So in that governing process, what are some of the challenges you've been meeting? Because I've been in the public sector trying to do the Bitcoin talk or the blockchain talk for a long time.
Yep.
But there's certain attitudes we keep running into. So
Yep.
what can we say? Or do you think we don't even bother saying it anymore because the change is just going to happen so fast now that they'll just have to come on board on the other side of it?
Yeah, it depends on what you want to achieve. And by the way, it's not just a public service, City of Vancouver or government thing. We're having the same conversations in the private sector as well, and really smart people who I have a ton of respect for, even when they say, Ken, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, okay, fine, I still respect you. I can't say a bad thing about you because I really respect these individuals. It depends on what you want to achieve, right? If you don't care, don't have the conversation, just because this thing's going to unfold no matter what we do. No matter what we do, everyone in this room, and in fact, whatever Canada does, Bitcoin doesn't give a shit. And there's 650 million people that have already adopted Bitcoin on the planet. It already has the network effect, and it's just growing and growing and growing, and it's going to bypass every single country. It'd be the equivalent of, like North Korea trying to shut down the internet. No, you can't use it. Great, no one gives a shit. All that happens is North Korea is a backwater, right? And so if you don't care, then sometimes I bang my head against the wall saying, why do we even bother? But going back to what, I'm going to say, I rarely say I, but what I'm trying to achieve as part of my goals in the city of Vancouver is to create a place where my boys will want to and will be able to call home. All of a sudden it's super relevant. It's worth banging our heads against the wall. And so we'll fight that fight. And we try to educate people, but from a place of compassionate and love. Because I was in that same spot 6 years ago where I literally told my son I was going to punch him in the throat if he touched that shit. So it takes time.
Yeah, keep fighting the good fight, is what we're hearing. Okay.
Hi, Ken. I have two questions. The first one is regarding to the city want to put Bitcoin on the balance sheets. My question is exactly how you want to put Bitcoin. Is it in the spot version, physical Bitcoin, or you can buy financial products like Bitcoin ETFs? Because I know that Canada has one of the first Bitcoin ETFs in the world as a purpose, like back in 2021. They're really front-running Wall Street. So if you want to put the ETF or if you want to put the physical Bitcoin on the balance sheet, how are you going to custody it? Are the city going to self-custody, or are you going to go through a bank to the custodian banks? And that rolls back to that lady's questions. Is there any kind of a regulation, sort of like American SOP 121, SAP 121 in the US? Because that one is recently SEC just rescinded, so allowing the bank to put Bitcoin on their balance sheets, custodian it.
Yeah.
So if you want to really buy the physical Bitcoin, how are you going to custodian it? That's my first question. The second one is...
Whoa, did you know? There's about 14 things embedded into that one, so. Okay, I'm going to answer it in a different way, and then we'll circle back. So we have a three-step process, and I'm not trying to get political here, but I have to describe one of the political things that we have to do, okay? And so I'm gonna preface this with, I'm not telling you how to vote or do whatever. You guys go nuts. This is not a political conversation, but it's important how I describe what we're gonna do to get us to where you were asking questions. So the first step was we had to pass a motion at City Hall asking our team to explore making Vancouver a Bitcoin city. And if it was any other topic, it'd be, of course. Like literally we're saying, hey, can you guys read some books and just tell us if this makes sense? But because of the fact that we're early and there's such a negative visceral reaction to Bitcoin amongst the broader population, that was incredibly difficult to get that one passed. Like, it was really close. So, we have our vote. It's going to come to council in May, and the report's going to come out. And it's either going to be a good report, and we're going to vote on it, or it's going to be a report that's factually incorrect, at which point I'll file an amendment, and we'll vote on that. But the problem is that vote's going to be really tough. And so what we're doing is we have a by-election on April the 5th. Actually, our two candidates, they're not here for that. They just wanted to like immerse themselves in Bitcoin. But they're here right now. They're both Bitcoin friendly. We actually need their votes if we have any hope of passing that motion that comes due in May. And so we need to get these, sorry, I'm not going to say we like you guys, but we need to get those guys elected. And it's going to be a very close vote in the election, but if we get them elected, then we have a chance of passing that motion. Then, to answer your question, how are we going to do it? Well, in a perfect world, I'm actually a conservative guy, so I'd actually like to hold the Bitcoin ourselves, not on an exchange. So not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Do we have multi-sig, or what custodian? If it's a custodian, do we spread it amongst 3 or 4 just in case? Because you have all this counterparty risk and all that shit as well. So we'll figure that out. That doesn't bring or minimizes the risk to the city. Now, for us to be able to do that, I forgot about the third part. We need the province's permission after we pass that motion, because we're not allowed to buy Bitcoin right now. So we have to get them to change the Vancouver Charter, which tells us how we operate. Now, there's a way around that. We have our team members looking at whether or not we can invest in an ETF or any kind of convertible debt instrument. If that's the case, then we can invest in an ETF, and then we have time to get the Vancouver Charter changed, because we just want exposure to Bitcoin. And this is a little more, it's a little riskier, but investing in strategies, convertible debt, right? If that's the only alternative we have to look at it and see if it's worthwhile. But it's not the ideal instrument. I know you get massive leverage, but you get massive leverage on the downside as well, and you have company risk. The reason I personally want to invest in Bitcoin is I truly believe in the technology, and I actually don't see it's actually the least risky asset out of anything we've seen.
Yeah, because when you invest in ETF, because I know the Blackhorse IBIT, they are already submitting, trying to convert their current product into in-kind redemption. That
Yep.
means you can use your
Yep.
cash buy and then
Yep.
redeem in physical
Yep.
Bitcoin. So I don't know, actually I already submitted a question to the purpose to ask them if they can do the same thing to chain modify their current funds into in-kind redemption for both Ethereum and
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, and so for everyone else's knowledge, he's getting really technical here, but what he's saying is totally right. Look, as long as we get exposure to Bitcoin, it may not be the perfect solution through an ETF, but it can work, and then we can convert it after. But I think, what people also have to realize as well, if we invest in the convertible debt or MicroStrategy as an example, you have the risk of having a 6102 pulled on you as well. If I was the US government, they want to add, well, it turns out about 900,000 Bitcoin, not 800, but 900,000 Bitcoin to their strategic reserve to get to 1 million. The easiest way, and no one's talking about this, but the easiest way for them would be to basically expropriate all of Strategy's Bitcoin. Just say, this is in our national strategic interest, we'll pay you, but we're basically buying you out. And now they have, about 500,000 Bitcoin to add to the 100 that they have. So they're already there. So I actually think MicroStrategy, you can get levered returns, but there's a lot of risk no one's even talking about.
The last question is about, do you think the city will somehow in the future will issue Bitcoin-backed bond?
Yeah, that's how we would monetize it. So the goal would be never to, so what he's talking about is, and the question that comes up is, well, you've bought Bitcoin and you have to run the city, so at some point you have to sell it. And the answer is no, you don't. You issue a bond that's backed by your Bitcoin and you use the proceeds from that bond to run the city.
Can I just interrupt, because it's directly to that. So you say that you need the province's permission to be able to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Do we need
Yeah.
So you need the province's permission to be able to buy Bitcoin. Do we need the province's permission to be able to accept Bitcoin for municipal taxes and various other payments from the public? I mean, obviously the Treasury's not going to grow that large that way.
Yeah, I didn't, I haven't given that one a lot of thought because it's a minor issue, but the team members will. The problem though with accepting Bitcoin right now, because while volatility is our friend over the short term or the long term, we can get picked off, right? So let's say your property taxes are $1,000 a year, and you're given the option to pay in Bitcoin. And during the, pardon?
At today's exchange rate.
Yeah, but what happens is it's changing by the minute. So if I were to pay my property tax bill in Bitcoin, I'd just wait to that perfect point in time where the Bitcoin equivalent's worth $800 Canadian, and then I'd pay in Bitcoin. Or if Bitcoin became more valuable, then I just pay in currency. So I have a free option as a taxpayer. The city gets picked off. In the future, when no one's accepting fiat currency anymore, then it's different. You can game the system.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But it feels like FX in general, but with the greater spread though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question over
Hello,
here.
thanks, Mayor Sim.
Yeah.
My name is Will. I'm a recent UBC graduate. I wanted to come back for this conversation. So I'm curious, outside of the reserve at the city, the Bitcoin Reserve, do you see a time, hopefully soon, where even Vancouver staff will be able to get their payroll payments in Bitcoin, and would that be out of the reserve, or how would that look like?
Yeah, actually it's funny because I give this a lot of thought, that one I do. The easiest way, I'm also about ease, and because the tax code hasn't caught up, the easiest way to do it is to still accept your paycheck in fiat currency. You pay your taxes, then whatever you want, you put, you buy your sats on an exchange. And that's the least clunky. If we're to do it the other way, we'd have to figure out how much did we pay you, right, in terms of fiat, because that's all they recognize in Revenue Canada. Then you'd have gains or losses all along the way, every time you transact until you finally buy do you see what I mean? So at some point, when the government, the federal government catches up, we'll have Canadian dollars and we'll have Bitcoin, I think, and then at some point, the fiat currency is just going to disappear because no one's going to accept it.
Okay, another question over here.
Hi, sir. So my name is Eddie. I've been looking at crypto payment industry for quite a while. Binance, Chainlink, a few years. So in Chainlink, we also work with Swift to facilitate payments for ANZ back on that. So like when you mentioned big banks starting things, I definitely noticed that as well.
Yeah.
So something I'm interested in is just like when we talk about a lot of things about Bitcoin liquidities, how we do this in Vancouver, storage and things, but also when people mention about payment roads and stuff like that. Do you think stable coins or things like that is something on the radar as well?
The need for stablecoins isn't as pronounced here as it would be in, let's say, El Salvador or Argentina, right? No, I'm just like, and so, you know, when we were in El Salvador, like you could see, like Tether had a huge presence, right? Whereas here, you know, our currency, even though it's debasing at an alarming rate, people don't see it, and there's no need. Like, there's not as big of a need. Like, for anyone who doesn't understand what we're talking about, how many people know what a stable coin is? Okay, most of us. So, you know, like if you're in a country where your currency is losing 50, 60, 70% of its value a year, there's a lot of pressure for you to work and then convert your pesos or lira or whatever into a stable coin or Bitcoin as soon as possible so that you stop the bleeding. And so that's what he's talking about here. We don't have a big need for it at this point in time, but that actually could be an option in the future if you know, everything's debasing, but if we debase at a way faster rate than the US dollar, at some point in time, people are gonna like want stable coins or US dollars instead.
Yeah, and also because that leads to my second question is like, say, you know, Trump is in the administration is doing a lot of promoting like stable coins in US dollars and stuff, right? Like in Canadian dollars, like not probably due to the depreciations, but just for the adoption ones, right? Because when you receive payment, you just want to, I don't know, like, if it's like 3K or 5K Canadian dollars, I just want to send them back value instead of saying like it's a fluctuating, I guess, how much that is, right? So we want Bitcoin. So from that standpoint, do you see the need for stablecoin as well, when Canadian, I guess, naturally?
You know, I don't know if I'm going to answer your question, but I think it's you know, what are you trying to achieve? Right? If you're transacting, let's say you're transacting, well, in the US it's easy, just US dollars, and maybe more people like migrate to US-based stablecoins. But if you're transacting, you know, in another country and they want, you know, some kind of US-based, you know, stablecoin, then it makes it a lot easier for you. It's way more efficient. But if you're looking at store of value, and I say this respectfully, a stablecoin is just an electronic form of fiat, right? And then you have the added benefit of you don't really know if it's really backed by anything, right? So, which is basically fiat as well. So you have all these risks here. And so if you have a longer term view and you're trying to store your energy and you're not looking to transact on a daily basis, you may migrate to Bitcoin. If you're looking at transacting on a daily basis and as part of your, you know, the operations of your company, maybe you're looking at a stable coin.
Another question over here.
Yeah, hello, and thank
Hi.
you so much for coming out. My name is Camille. I'm an AI developer.
Ooh.
My reason for being here is kind of unconventional. I'm actually really into mycology, and we have the professor here, Dr. Suzanne Simmert, who actually did research on this and was learning about the plants and the connections and just the whole optimization flow they have there. There's a lot that we can like kind of superimpose into our society from the way that the mycelium and the plants work.
Mm-hmm.
And we can kind of use blockchain as a medium for that. I noticed that at the beginning when you were talking, you kind of used like Bitcoin and blockchain interchangeably. And in my opinion, I think that if you were to solve issues that are like ultimately system inefficiencies through the medium of blockchain, that could maybe help improve public opinion. I think there's a lot of sensationalism in the news, and I think that it's there's a lot of like negative sentiment, and I think it's the shared idea of like people seeing the news and it's overtly negative, and then resort to having a negative idea about it because they have a very superficial idea of it. But I think what you were mentioning before too is the technology itself is very, very strong in terms of potential with the decentralization, the immutability of it. And so I was wondering if, in tandem with the Bitcoin, if you have any intention of like really promoting like the blockchain, like the power of that, because I was even thinking about like EHR, electronic health records, and it's very, very fragmented. And my dad's a doctor, and he's like complaining about it all the time. And as someone who like has been learning about blockchain as well, I'm like, you know, if the government did something about that, it could and then like patients could also access their records, and there wasn't like such a bottleneck in that. Like those could be things that people could then see the value in it, and then that could really enhance public opinion by solving those issues through that medium. And I don't think there has been much talk about that, and so I was wondering what your opinion was.
And sorry, can you rephrase it? So what was the question again? Like there's...
I just went on.
Yeah, no, okay, and by the way, I totally agree. So the first thing, like in conversations like this, I do use Bitcoin and blockchain interchangeably, but yeah, it's completely different. So if we wanted to get way more technical, you know, the blockchain is only one part of what gives Bitcoin its value. Okay, so totally acknowledge that. When it comes to AI and sort of, and I think your question as well is, are there any plans to use the blockchain with electronic health records and a whole bunch of other things, or?
Yeah, because I think that there's been a lot of talk about Bitcoin, but I think like the real value of it, looking at it from, you know, just the way the mushrooms and the planets work and seeing how optimized their system is, and there's a lot of inefficiencies in our system.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go on a meandering journey here, just if you bear with me for a sec, because I'm going to bring up 2 points and then I'm going to answer your question. So I'm part of a group called Abundance 360. We meet once a year. I don't know, do you know Peter Diamandis and the guy, he's the guy that put the X Prize together? Okay, so he actually, he's the founder of Abundance 360, but Ray Kurzweil, you know, the singularity is near and the singularity is nearer. He's a big guy there. Love him or hate him right now, but Elon Musk will show up, and Eric Schmidt, and like a whole cast of characters. And so we sort of get together once a year and we talk about all this stuff. The second thing I'll share with you is part of another program I'm on. We went to Panama and we look at, and I can never pronounce this, but biomimicry, right? And so, you know, if you look at nature, nature actually always does the simplest thing. It's the most efficient thing. And so, you know, we learned about how you can actually paint the bottoms of ships based on, like, you know, shark skin, because you flow through the water faster. And we looked at how rivers sort of meander and all that stuff, and we're trying to apply that to business applications. A long way of saying, yeah, I can totally see the applications going forward. And at the City of Vancouver, there are so many things that we're not accountable for. Like, we're not healthcare. And even when we talk about bringing, property like deeds, title onto the blockchain, we'll probably be a laggard there. We'll wait for someone to, you know, build the technology, work out all the kinks, and then we'll just buy that technology. But when it comes to store of value and setting up a strategic reserve, we want to be one of the leaders there. Sorry, I'm just going back and forth. So I don't know if I answered your question there, but.
Yeah, so I'm always like, I consider myself kind of like an entrepreneur as well, so I'm wondering like what I can do and if there's a way that I can contribute to the city. I'm really trying to like find my purpose, I guess.
I can tell you how you can contribute. Don't give up on Vancouver. Whatever you do, especially in AI, stick around. We live in the greatest time in human history. As you know, like, AI is doubling every 5 months. Okay, so by the way, as an aside, people aren't wired to understand exponential change. Right, so if I were to ask you, if you were to fold a piece of paper 50, and if you know the answer to this, don't scream it out, please. Someone else this weekend knew the answer. But if If you're to fold a piece, of paper 51 times, how tall would that stack be? 1 meter off the ground, 10 meters off the ground, or 100 meters off the ground? How many vote for 1 meter off the ground? How about 10 meters off the ground? Okay, so 10 meters. How about 100 meters off the ground? Okay, a lot of people didn't answer here. So, the answer is it would blow through the sun. The reason I share that with you is AI is doubling every 5 months. In 2.5 years, it will be 64 times better. So imagine ChatGPT 64 times better 2.5 years from now. And then in another 5 months, it will be 128 times better. What you can do is stick around, build that shit here, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. Thanks. Yeah.
I'm very mindful of the time, because I think you may have like a day job or something you need to do.
Oh, it's a government job. We just sit around all day. Yeah.
I just want to give an opportunity maybe for one or two last questions, and then
Sure.
if you do have time to stick around, then we can have some informal chit chat. So question over here. And then,
I think we had a conversation about Bitcoin AI in 2019, or early 2019, right?
Yeah.
One of the things the city is proposing right now is to build purpose rental towers with sticky land, right?
Yep.
And it's good to hear that city have $3.2 billion in cash to do a lot of things, but in terms of financing those projects, are we looking at traditional finances, or potentially we could do something with crypto? Really financing?
Yeah, we're probably looking at traditional finance at this point in time. Like Yeah, you know what? It's funny though. But if you know this equation, I'm not saying we're doing this, but wow, I don't even know how I sort of get out of this one here. Yeah, no, I'm not allowed to give investment advice, so I'll shut that one down. But yeah, you know what? We have to take baby steps. It was a pretty big deal for us to use city-owned land and build rentals addressing the middle market or middle-income individuals making between 94 and 190 grand per year as a family unit. And so just to get that stuff built without a lot of moving parts, we want to set it up for success. But in the future, we could. And in fact, maybe we use the crypto we have, we use it to securitize or as security for the financing. So there are a lot of votes there. Right.
So, okay, one last question from Jesse, or a comment?
Just a last question. Cities are great infrastructure operators, so any thoughts about...
Sorry, say that again?
Cities are great infrastructure operators.
Yeah.
So any thoughts about Bitcoin infrastructure and the role Vancouver could play in that, or the city could play in that?
Yeah, okay, so I don't know if I'm going to answer your question, but I can give you an example of how we can look at things differently and turn cost centers into profit centers. So think of Kit's Pool. Right now, we spend a ton of money heating that pool, okay? Now, if we actually had a Bitcoin miner there, and they're mining Bitcoin, and they generate heat to heat the pool, now, instead of having a cost, the Bitcoin miner will actually pay us for the privilege of heating our pool. And so there's no more energy expended. There's no more harm to the environment, but we've made a smart fiscal decision. So there are ways to actually, look at things differently and be super smart about this stuff. So does that answer your question about infrastructure? Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
I think about whiskey, not swimming pools, but
Can I make a couple of closing comments? And can I introduce a couple of guys here just because they came here? And once again, this is not political, very far from it. Ralph, did Jamie have to step out?
Yeah, Jamie had to step out.
Yeah. Okay, so like I said, how do I put this? There's a by-election coming up on April 5th. So forget about ABC and the party I will represent. If you have the ability to vote in Vancouver, come out and vote. I don't care who you vote for, but it's so important that you vote. That's what gives you power, and that's how we get things done, because the more people that vote, the politicians start to listen, and they'll listen to you, okay? So that's not a plug for us, okay? Ralph is a person. He's going to be running in the election. He's going to be running as part of the ABC, one of our candidates. We have two. Jamie was the other one. These two candidates are the only two pro-Bitcoin candidates out there. The rest aren't. And so, if and when you guys vote, and vote for whoever you want, if you consider that, I think it's important that you guys understand that some people support the ecosystem and everyone else doesn't. So with that, Ralph, did you want to introduce yourself in like a minute or less? Because this is not a political thing.
My name is Ralph Kaisers, and I'm going to have the honor of obviously working and hoping to work with Ken Sim as a city councillor.
Yeah, no, just closer to home.
Just super quickly, born and raised in Vancouver. Parents were immigrants to this country as well, so it was a journey for them. As immigrants in this country, they taught me that hard work, dedication, and you can make something of your life, and I'd like to think I have. I spent 33 years as a police officer in the city of Vancouver. I've seen people at their worst. I've seen them at their best. I've stuck to a life of civil service, and I plan on continuing to do that as a city councillor in Vancouver, where I will not be advocating for our members, but I'll be advocating for our citizens. So,
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last thing I'll leave you with is, like, everything we said obviously wasn't investment advice, but also don't trust, verify. That's the one beautiful thing about this community. No one's trying to trick anyone. They all say, look, do your own work, prove it out, and then once you do it, it's pretty amazing. So if you're one of the Bitcoiners that are closeted like most of us, it's safe to come out, okay? It is safe to come out, and don't be shy, and we have your backs, and this stuff is actually gonna save the world. So with that, thank you so much for being here, and I'm sure we'll see each other again soon.